Module number 2, looking at interviewing people in our building. I had to do this by email because I am in the hospital currently. So I interviewed my principal, Mark Sonderegger, and a coworker of mine, Stacy Knight. Her and I are on the SPED team together, and one of my paraprofessionals, Julie, who has had a good 3 to 4 years of experience working under me. Child find procedures, we have it pretty simple, but it is exhausting because of the amount of data we collect to refer a student. So each fall, winter, and spring, we conduct a Ames Web test and an F&P Fontana test, and it is to see what students are on the bottom half of that grade level. We take that information, review it, put them in interventions. If the student has not received an intervention before, then we refer them to the general educational intervention team, and that team meets bi-weekly to discuss student progress of Tier 2 students, and if the progress is not uh, well, then they are referred to the evaluation process. From a special ed standpoint, uh, we work with the interventionist to know which students might be coming up for referral for evaluation. We collaborate with the school psychologist and their data. Did we discuss the interventions that might be appropriate for that kid at a tier 3 level? And then at the eligibility meeting, we make a determination of whether that kid would have progress at using special education services, continuing with GEI, or having a 504. Um, our paraprofessionals, they use Infinite Webinars to keep up with their points that they need to stay certified and working in the district, and they go to staff trainings twice a year, and those trainings change depending on what's being presented, if it's an intervention or knowing a little bit more about the GEI and IEP process, so they have a clear understanding of what we're doing. Most challenging part of a role. This Mr. Sonderegger had said that his most challenging parts are making the appropriate consequences for students that have behavioral IEPs, because we know they're at a higher risk of dropout for receiving ISS and OSS. Um, Also, keeping up with the changes always around special ed policies, either nationally, locally, or at the district level, and improving the quality and process of the quality and speed, sorry, of the GEI process, because it is so long, and sometimes it takes longer than a year and a half to get a student referred for eval, and that could be too long because we would lost a lot of time working with that student at a tier 3 level. From a teacher standpoint, continuing with that professional development and trainings, like always finding the time to do that, especially in behavior and math. And reading, there is a ton of research, there are a ton of kids, so it's easy to keep up with, but math and behavior are a little bit different in that the same information comes out. So looking for new strategies. Right now, a big thing is executive functioning, finding stuff that is actually applicable and not just a bunch of information that doesn't really give us a strategy on how to help a student with executive functioning needs. Scheduling services with the or the general education teachers, because their schedules can be so demanding, and making sure that they're not missing out on classroom requirements or classroom curriculum. Um, Keeping up with all the changes regarding an IEP. We just got an email last night saying that there's been a change in the process, and so we need to go forward now making these changes, and it just gets a little confusing after a while, and then being able to manage multiple paraprofessionals and making them feel like they are being heard and that we are solving their problems and helping them out. From a para standpoint, it's just being able to go to trainings on intervention strategies that they feel are useful. Sometimes we throw things together and it's not helpful, and they leave very confused and unsure of what they're supposed to be doing. Working with students that have higher needs or um, low incident students and knowing how to help them without providing them the answers, or being able to finish something and make a split decision on what needs to happen next, especially with the behavior. Most rewarding part of the job would be, I think, for all three categories, seeing students succeed. And I think in education, that's always the goal. That's always the most rewarding part, especially when you've taught them something for so long and it finally sticks and we're able to move on and watch their confidence build. Watching for Mr. Sonriger, it's also watching your team come together and be able to uh, work together well and not bicker and fight. Um, for Stacy, it's also working as a team, being able to problem solve and work with each other instead of against each other, and being able to communicate openly without feeling judged on your opinions. Um, as a para, seeing students, she said, definitely seeing students work with a complete seeing the students I work with complete a task independently. Well, she works with a few of my low incident students. So for her, it's definitely seeing these kids do something on their own and be successful at it, because school is so hard for them. The advice on supervision. This Mr. Sonriger said is challenging because there are so many different people in the building, keeping collaboration and communication open. So meeting with the people and making sure that everything is happening, making sure that they are being heard, or if they have a problem, addressing that problem before it gets too big, um, keeping up with the data, to sharing out the data with the gen ed teachers and interventionists and sped support staff. It's a lot. As a teacher, we've been very lucky this year. Stacy and I have been able to schedule meetings with our paras every day, usually in the morning or after school. And it's just to make sure that they don't have any concerns, or if they have problems, what are we going to do to change it? What do we need to do tomorrow? Um, or for that day, meeting with the gen ed team once a week. Same reasons. We meet with the intervention team monthly to see if there's any interventions that we're struggling with and how we can help each other out. We also meet to see if there's any students that we're struggling with and if anybody else has any good suggestions. For Julie, it is a constant communication. She meets with the gen ed teachers every morning before school starts to see what we need to get done for that day. Uh, that we, or if there's anything out of the ordinary, and the educating her on intervention strategies. Working effectively with parents. Our parents have a little bit different role. We like for them not to contact parents unless they've been given permission, just because we've had problems in the past with paras and parents talking, and it's caused trust issues between the teachers and the parents. So we have put a lot of emphasis on parents not interacting with parents unless we have permission to do so. So from a sped teacher standpoint, take all concerns seriously. I mean, some of them might be silly, but to that parent, they're very important. So look at that information and make a change if you need to. Comfort the parent, build some trust. Because if the trust isn't there, then it's going to be a difficult working situation. Mr. Soundringer said, kind of like Stacy said, make time for parent concerns, respond to emails and phone calls quickly, make sure you stay on top of things so it doesn't get overwhelming or something falls through the cracks and then it looks like an incompetent team. Working with regular education teachers has been a struggle on some ends, especially when schedules change it or um, we need to see a student more for more time than what they can allow. Um, so it's about having open communication, meeting with them, making sure we're all on the same page, which can be very difficult. Mr. Sonderegger said that he likes to schedule meetings with his teachers if they are having concerns or likes to just check in and see how particular students are in their class and what maybe he could do to help them out. He does attend GEI and IEPs regularly. There's some he can't attend, but for the most part, he's there and aware of what is taking place inside his building. The para, it's just the check-in, ask for assignments and assessments that might need to be modified ahead of time so we're not rushing around at the last minute, and knowing who needs the accommodations on assessments and places to go. So again, we're not rushing around. Advice for first year teachers. Schedule a beginning of the year meeting with the SPED team, get to know your staff, make sure you have an idea of the intervention processes, what interventions are taking place in your building, and maybe offer up some ideas on what you could offer to the intervention team to help them out. The role of a special education teacher and building principal. Work as a team. Definitely work as a team. Communicate. Um, always stay open with each other. Discuss consequences before handing them out. Make sure that the changes to plans or IEPs are handed out and discussed throughout the SPED team and not keeping it to just the teachers because there's times principals need to know that information also. And from a para standpoint, evaluate the performance of the in the general education setting and the SPED setting because they can offer valuable information that other people are missing. Characteristics. We all are kind of on the same page is that they need to be flexible, fair, a team player, patient, be able to address that person with any concerns and not feeling like you're going to be judged or punished, and know that you have a person that has an assertive but soft side of them to make decisions because somebody at some point is going to have to step up and be a leader. Um, and it can't be the whole team. So I hope you found this informative. I found this project fun and looking forward to the next one.